Welcome in, everybody. Glad as always that you are along. We know who will participate in the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles, and your favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. How many people had the Chiefs getting back there 3 times? What is it, by the way? To like 17 games in a row, 17 one-score games in a row that they've won. And I think that one of the narratives that was thrown out there throughout the year is that they're on the precipice of not disaster, but of getting knocked off because you can't keep winning these one-score games. Well, guess what? They won another one-score game, and they're going to the Super Bowl, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that did not win a one-score game. It was like a 30-score game ultimately in defeating the Washington Commanders. We'll get to that in one moment. I want to tell you about my sponsors, as I always do. Steel's been with me since day one. Love their product, love their staff, love everything about them. I have so many battery-powered tools that help me get the job done around the house. Blowers this time of year. We get 3 or 4 inches of snow and it's in that little courtyard area or wherever, the front door area. You just take that and you blow it out. You don't have to, exert yourself with a shovel. They have everything though. They have the biggest line of things that will take trees down or smaller things, chainsaws. Yes, they have the biggest line of chainsaws going. You have to check it out. And again, I love battery-powered products. And if you've never used a battery product, steel product, understand that it's going to last a long time. It's not like you put it in and then 3 minutes later, you got to try to find a way to recharge it. Not at all like that. Steel, go to steelusa.com. You'll find all their products, and go to steeldealers.com. You'll find one right around the corner from you. It's Steel, S-T-I-H-L. Big Bank has opened up and really done some marvelous things already in our area, and that's Huntington Bank. And they have such a local flavor to them, and I'm thrilled that they're on board with us here on our little podcast. And we're presented by Huntington Bank, where banking just clicks. Try asterisk-free checking with no monthly maintenance fee, no matter what. So Colorado, it's your money. So keep more of it. Make the switch today at huntington.com/yourmoney. Huntington Bank. All right, Super Bowl, as I said, is set. Kansas City, I think, especially for people in the Rocky Mountain region, they love to loathe the Kansas City Chiefs. And speaking of familiar narratives, one is that the NFL wants Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to be in the Super Bowl, that they're pushing them in some clandestine fashion with the officials. Do you know that they keep track of everything in sports these days? And the Chiefs, out of 32 NFL teams, were 17th in penalties that kept drives alive this year. Right smack in the middle. In fact, the number one team in the lower half. The Buffalo Bills, interestingly, were number one in that regard. So I don't want to hear about, this penalty or that penalty aiding the Chiefs, and that is the singular reason that they're going back to the Super Bowl. I will tell you that it was close with that spot on 4th and 1 with Josh Allen, and perhaps, but the ball was in his left hand, and it was hard to tell. I understand where that can be frustrating, but I also think Josh Allen said afterward, and certainly the next day, if you want to, truly beat the champ, you got to decisively win plays like that and decisively beat the champ. So, had he gained 1.5 yards and the official just walks out and goes first down, you don't have to measure, remove any doubt. And that's what you have to do to beat a great team. And they had opportunities at the end. Don't forget this. Buffalo had 2 opportunities to get a 3-and-out on Kansas City. And that's part of the genius of Andy Reid in how he draws up plays. And he also has one of the all-time greats naturally in Patrick Mahomes. So he's not afraid to throw it, but he always draws up something schematically where it's a really safe pass and often it's going to be one that is really difficult to defend. And I believe he had trips to the boundary side, and they all ran slants in man coverage and picked off who would have been covering the back out of the backfield. It was an easy little flip. The ball was probably in the air, about 4 or 5 yards. And, that's going to be a first down, 99 and a half times out of 100. And it was. So Buffalo was unable to get off the field. So I know people want to point to that fourth down, and they want to, continue that narrative that somehow the Chiefs are being aided by the league. I ain't buying it. It's BS. And the Chiefs deserve to be in the Super Bowl again. And I don't hate the Chiefs. I'm not a hater. I'm not. I admire greatness. I had no problem when New England was up here. As you guys know, I'm a Giant fan from growing up. And when the Giants were able to beat New England in 2007 and 2011 and keep them out of the history books from going undefeated, it means more than had they beaten, another AFC representative that season. So the fact that the Chiefs are dynastic now and are going back to their third Super Bowl with a chance to win 3 in a row, I don't look at that as bad. I don't hate on them. I admire Patrick Mahomes as a lover of the sport. He gives you great joy, and he's phenomenally entertaining watching him play. Same with a kind of a, by football standards, an elder statesman like Travis Kelce. So again, I've got no issue with it. I think Philadelphia, it sets up for a very intriguing Super Bowl because of their ability really to run the ball. They have a great offensive line. Not only can they run it with their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, but they have the best back in football in Saquon Barkley. And he's had an historic season. And I mean, how crazy was that? First touch, toss sweep, and he goes 60 plus for a touchdown. So I think there's a contrast there that will make for a very good football game. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? You've heard that before. Hey, going back, by the way, to the NFC Championship game, I'm a big fan from afar of Jaden Daniels. I wish he was a New York Giant, right? I'm thrilled that the Broncos got their guy now in Bo Nix. Jaden Daniels is going to be phenomenal, and he was undaunted in taking the Commanders to within a step of going to the Super Bowl. I will advise, not that he's listening to me, when you are down by a couple of touchdowns, 3 scores when he got in the end zone late third quarter, don't have an overzealous celebration. The scoreboard dictates. And I when I was watching it live, I'm like, don't do this whole team-wide dance in the end zone. It's not like you just went ahead or you tied up the game or it's the first quarter or early second quarter. You're still down by a significant margin, and you have not stopped Philadelphia all game long, which ultimately, from that point forward, it was 3 touchdowns to none, favoring the Eagles, and they dropped 55 on Washington. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good Super Bowl. I really do. The other big news, because football is always big news, right? But here in Colorado, and this one made me stop in my tracks. I'm a huge Avs fan. Love the Avalanche. Love hockey. Admire the grit, the toughness, the code within the sport. And the Avalanche have been blessed to have 3 future Hall of Famers on their roster, 3 true superstars, 3 of the top 10 players in the league. McKinnon, obviously, Makar, obviously, and also Miko Raton. He's a top 10 or 12 player in the league. And he's been with the Avs, or had been with the Avs, for a decade. We know that if you follow them, he was coming up on free agency at the end of the year. His agent represents Leon Draisaitl, the great Edmonton Oiler winger. And when he was up, I think it was 2 years ago, or maybe less than that, he got $14 million per. Nathan McKinnon, who was just up not all that long ago, is around 12.5. And they went back and forth, and I know the reports have come out Rantanen said, he would have taken a hometown discount. We don't know what that meant to him. I mean, maybe in his mind, he was worth $15 million a year and a hometown discount was 13.5. And I truly believe what we've heard from McFarland, that the Avalanche were looking at getting greater depth, that to win it all, and that's their goal every year. And that's why, it's fun to be an Avalanche fan, and that they truly are trying to win it every year, especially, having two generational talents in McKinnon and Makar. And Rantanen, you could say, well, he's the same way. But I think they felt like, and I don't think they're done, by the way, but I think they felt like we can bring a couple of pieces back and we'll be deeper. And in watching Martin Necas play his first couple of games, I didn't know a ton about him. I know he was having a terrific year with Carolina, but he's 6'3" and he's about 195 pounds, so he's a good-sized guy by hockey standards, and he can fly. And I'm not taking anything away from Miko Raton. He's a faster skater than Mikko. Mikko's great. The Avalanche are going to miss him. But watching Necas play with McKinnon and Lehkonen right now, it was electric the first couple of games. And I know the Avs, are 1-1, but that had nothing to do with Necas. He had 2 assists in each of the 2 games he's played for the Avs, and I think that can be really special. Jack Drury, 2 games with the Avs. He's probably a middle 6 forward, but he helps upgrade considerably the depth. And by the way, for those that don't know, yes, he is related to Chris Drury. He's Chris is Jack's uncle. So let's see how it all plays out. There's no question you're going to miss 96, but from what I've seen so far, 88, Necas, pretty special. And as I said a moment ago, and I'm sure you've read a lot of places, I don't think the Avs are done. And one of the kind of elephants in the room is it realistic to think, and you have your fingers crossed, that somehow now 2.5 years later, somehow Landeskog can get back and be, a solid contributor. It's not just getting back. It'll be a win if he gets back and plays in an NHL game. But can he play, anywhere close to the level he played at for years? And that's a huge, enormous question. You're not talking about, hey, we haven't seen him in a year. It's been 2.5 years, and that clock is ticking. And I think from a front office standpoint, you can't say, oh yeah, well, wait till he comes back and he's going to be the same guy. You can't. So I think part of this deal and why they didn't wait right up to the trade deadline is they felt like, you've got to get something in return, and maybe you can get a couple of somethings in return that ultimately can help make you better and deeper, which you have to be to win a cup. But it was a shock, man. Not going to lie. It was a shock. This week's guest on the show, as you know, is Darien Hagan. And for those that go back or not recent transplants to Colorado, this is a thrilling time right now, the present for the University of Colorado, led by Coach Prime. We understand that. And they're coming off a fine season. They won 9 during the regular season. But the greatest period of time in Colorado football to this point, through more than a century, was the late 80s through the first part of the 90s, when Bill McCartney had recruited his tail off. And one of the guys that he was able to get from inner city Los Angeles, from Watts, was Darien Hagan. And Darien Hagan was the most sought-after option quarterback in the country. And you'll hear the story coming up, he signs with Bill McCartney and the University of Colorado. And there were a number of big names that followed. They remained super close. They were all in town last week for the final farewell to Coach McCartney. And one of the things that Darian would often say about his relationship with Bill McCartney, and he obviously coached at the University of Colorado after his playing days for a long period of time. He's now at San Diego State as the running backs coach there. But whenever he would see Coach Mack would always say to Darian, "You saved my job." And Darian quickly would reply and said, "You saved my life." It was a special bond. And Darian's a special guy. Um, it's been a while since I've gotten to sit down and chat with him, but when I see him, he has that, electric smile, and I always enjoy spending some time, though it's been a long time. I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. One of the all-time great buffs, Darien Hagan. Hags, it's great to see you. Last time I saw you, it was the wee hours of the morning, and we were hustling over our respective planes, and we were on the
Right.
BIA train. You look good.
Hey, you do too, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it. I know it's good for you to be back in Boulder. You're coaching out in San Diego with the Aztecs these days. How much do you get back and forth and see the family?
I try to get back as often as I can. Usually, it's around, spring break, things we don't have a lot going on football wise. You know, I was home for Christmas because we didn't go to a bowl game. Uh, so I was able to spend time then. Had to get back on New Year's. And then we had to get back on the road recruiting. The transfer portal is messing up a whole lot of different things. So it's tough, but they usually come out and see me once a month.
Good
You know,
deal. Yeah, I want to get into that. I wasn't going to do that initially, but you mentioned the transfer portal and
Mhm.
recruiting. Um, how different is it? You were at Colorado for a long time. Obviously, a player, everybody knows that, but you were on the coaching staff through several different head coaches.
Correct.
How different is it now recruiting to a school? I don't want to call San Diego State a mid-major, but there's tiers now. Higgs, you know that. I mean, it's like Ohio State, Georgia, that ilk
Yeah.
of team. There's about 6, 8 of those guys, and then there's the
Right.
next level, and then on down. How tough is that?
It's tough. It's really tough, but you never deviate from your plan. You always, go after the guys you think you can get. It's the same thing when I was at CU. We went after the guys we thought we could get, but we never deviated from the plan. At San Diego State, we know at sometimes we'll be the first to offer an elite player, and then the big schools will come in, and when those big schools come in and they invite that kid to campus, you ain't getting them. you know. So what we try to do is we always try to tell the kid, all right, you can go ahead and go to school there, but we'll get you on a rebound because you'll bounce back. So we'll get you on a rebound. We'll treat you right. During the recruiting process, so you'll love us when you go back into the portal. We'll be the first school you call.
How much part of the process, Hags, now, and it's the elephant in the room, right? The financial side. I mean, I don't know if it's the first thing out of a kid's mouth or a parent's mouth, but it's somewhere in that conversation on a home visit, isn't it?
Absolutely. But what happens with me, I've made it up, told them up front, I don't deal with money. I don't want to talk about money. I know that's important to you guys. That's why we have a GM, that's why we got a head coach. You'll talk to those two guys about money. Yeah, I just want to talk ball. And then we talk ball, and if we have a mutual respect and fit and good feel for each other, then we'll continue the process.
Darren, every school's different. Do you recruit just skill guys, just running backs, because that's your room,
Right.
or do you get involved with an area, and if there's a big fella in that area, you're recruiting, a 300-pound guy?
Yes, I'm an area guy, and I recruit every position. Every
Okay.
position besides a punter or a kicker. Then I'll put those guys onto our special teams coordinator.
Do they have you in your old stomping grounds of Los Angeles,
Oh,
or
you know that.
okay?
I'm in the hood.
Okay, you got anybody at lock this year?
No, Locke doesn't have anybody, but the neighboring school where my mom graduated, my dad graduated from, they have a kid that I'm really really high on, and I think we have a good chance of getting this kid. This kid is really 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 good,
Yeah,
but no one goes to the inner city and recruit no more.
is that right?
Yeah, they all go to they go to the inner city, but they go to St. John Bosco, they go to Narbonne, they go to schools like that, but they don't go into the meat and potatoes of the city.
Hmm. That's interesting, and obviously there's still great kids there, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
great kids there, and those guys miss opportunities because there's not a lot of schools going in. And that's why you get a lot of kids in high school that are transferring out. I had a kid ask me the other day, if I stay at my school, will you guys recruit me, or if I transfer to Mater Dei, will that be a better choice for me? I said, look here, man. I don't care. You can play football. If you go to the moon with your family, I'm going to come to the moon and follow you because I think that's how good a football player you are.
Yeah, it's different though. When you were growing up, Darian, I said this all the time, and I think you remember, I'm a New York guy, and
Hmm.
there's, and we've seen it out here in Colorado with Valor Christian and Regis, where and Mullen, where, let's be honest, they'll go and recruit. So they,
Right.
And they can give money and take a kid that maybe couldn't afford to go to a Valor or a Mater Dei. I mean, the elite schools in the CIF,
Yep.
they're all those schools in Orange County, and they play in all in the same league. And I
Yep.
mean, I looked at that roster, by the way, this year, because I love recruiting. I looked
Right.
at Mater Dei. It's
Yep.
ridiculous. They have,
Absolutely.
right? They got like 15 like Power Four kids.
Absolutely. And none of them live in the area,
Right. So
but what they
it's different now, right?
absolutely is totally different, and the thing that's concerning for me is the parents are allowing their kids to be treated that way. When I was growing up, my mom would have never allowed me to transfer to a Mater Dei just for the sake of getting a scholarship. My mom wanted to make sure that she had her hand on me, she was raising me on a daily basis, and not having someone else raise me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's what's happening right now. These kids are getting raised by handlers. They're getting raised by agents. They see their families on weekends and stuff like that. They're always all over the country going to all-star games. They always going to 7-on-7 tournaments. So these guys they're doing a lot, but they're, lack of a better word, these guys are sometimes they're getting used.
Yeah. Can San Diego State, Colorado State, Oregon State, Washington State, you guys are going to form the new Pac 12, which
Correct.
was in some ways close to your heart because you coached in it. You grew up probably, heavily
Watching it.
involved in watching SC and
Yep.
UCLA.
Yep.
Can this group rise and become that fifth power conference again? What's your vision looking forward?
I think it can. And one of the reasons of why is because, with San Diego State, being the only major player, in that area, we plant our flag and we recruit the right way, we recruit the right kids. The right kids are hearing what we're talking about. San Diego State's a program that we want to develop kids. We don't want to get kids out of the portal and get ready-made kids. We want to develop kids. We want to pour into kids. We're going to let them understand that college football or college is about an exceptional and experience. And that's what we're all about. We're a developmental program, and a lot of schools are not like that. And I think Oregon State, Washington State, Colorado State, all those schools have to be developmental programs. And then a lot of kids will fall to us because the SEC schools and ACC schools, Big 10 school, Big 12, they can't recruit them all.
No, but the problem is you're constantly re-recruiting because
Yeah.
if you get that freshman or sophomore that goes off and now can play anywhere in the country,
Right.
they're going to try to say, hey, we're going to throw a lot of money at you, and that kid's going to be hard pressed not to go to Michigan or Alabama or pick your big name school.
Right. I agree. I agree. Plus, a lot of these schools are, they're deviating from 85 scholarships to 105 scholarships. So they're going to have a lot of depth, you know, and they'll be able to poach kids from our programs and, get rid of the bottom feeders on their depth chart, which, they're bottom feeders on the depth chart because they're not good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I can't recall. So when Coach Mack, and we're going to get to Coach Mack obviously
Uh-huh.
in great detail here in a moment, when he recruited you out of Locke High School,
Hmm.
was it USC? Who did they have to beat, and who did you root for as a kid growing up?
I rooted for Oklahoma.
Really? Because
Yeah.
the option quarterback, right?
Nope.
Jamel Holloway and those guys. No.
Nope.
What do you got?
My entire family's from El Reno, Oklahoma. My
I didn't know
mom,
that.
yeah, everybody was raised in Oklahoma, and then my granddad got a job after the military. He got a job back in California and brought the whole family down. and that's where we laid our roots. But their whole family is from El Reno, Oklahoma, and that's how I was raised a Sooner.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
So,
I just
so,
knew I was going to school there.
so take me through the recruiting process again.
Okay, so yeah, I could have pretty much gone to a lot of different places, but I picked 5 schools that I thought I would have a really good chance to, have a great career. So my first visit was Oklahoma, and on my visit, they had a kid on the team. I had a big gold chain on my neck, and the kid on the team asked me, "Was I coming to school there?" I said, "I'm thinking about it." He goes, "Good, because I'm gonna steal your chain." And when he told me that, I was like, "There's no way I'm going to school with a thief." And I'm like, I'm like, "Nope, couldn't do it." And then I went to my second visit. I went to Nebraska.
Why would Bosworth say something like that? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
actually, I can tell you who it was. It was a kid named Jerry Parks. He was a
Okay.
safety for him. And then I went to Nebraska, and I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel a sense in my heart a desire to be there.
Okay.
And plus at the same time I was getting recruited by CU, so the red was always bought up, and then knowing that I was in a Crip neighborhood and couldn't wear red if I went to Nebraska. All those things kept creeping up in the back of my mind. Then Coach McCartney came to my house, and he said that to my mom and my aunt, my grandma, who was in the room, and they all looked at me like, "You ain't going to school there." And then I went to Arizona. I had this big Jerry curl, and I
Mhm.
went to Arizona. Everybody's having a good time in the swimming pool, and I knew I couldn't get in the swimming pool because I was gonna mess up my perm. So I'm like, "Nah, I can't get, I can't come here." And then UW, I went to UW, and then the whole trip it rained. And then come to find out, later that year, it had rained 93 days straight, and I was like, "Whoa, I couldn't do that." And then my last visit was to CU. And when I visited CU, come over to Davis and Mesa, and you see the university, see the red rooftops. And then once we got to campus, I didn't know that CU had so many players from the Los Angeles area. And then when Coach Mack came into the room, I just felt a sense of you know somebody that was going to be a protector, someone that's going to be a confidant, someone that I knew was going to be a leader, and I knew that the University of Colorado was the place for me, and that's why I chose CU.
You know what, Darian, and I do recall because it wasn't just you. You were a national recruit, and around that same time frame, J.J. Flanagan, national recruit, Eric Bieniemy, national recruit, the H boys from, Canavis and
Yep,
Alfred
yep.
from Houston. All of you
Dion
could have got,
Figures,
yeah, Dion Figures, Chad
Chad
Brown,
Brown.
it could have gone, from Pasadena, could have
Yeah,
gone anywhere in the country.
right,
And it's not like, you mentioned schools that were powers. I mean,
right,
Nebraska was in their heyday, Oklahoma heyday. I
right.
mean, it's crazy that Coach Mack was able to take kids like yourself, and they may have said, you guys might have said, man, well, you only won a few games last year. We want to win. Those other schools are winning,
Right,
back
right,
then, 9 games a year, 10 games a year.
right.
What was it about his sales skills, his magnetism that drew all of you to Boulder?
I think it was the way he presented when he spoke. When he spoke, he his tone and his eyes pierced you, and you could tell everything he was saying. He believed in it. It wasn't made up. It wasn't any false pretense behind it. Um, and he knew what he wanted. He knew how to get it, and he knew how to reach us. And a lot of other college coaches, they didn't know how to do that. They didn't know how to reach us to our core. And Coach Mack was able to do that with everybody that came to school that played for him because he genuinely cared about people.
Yeah, I remember a time, and if I remember it, I'm sure you do as well. There was there weren't many African American head coaches in college football,
Right.
and it came up around the time that There was a big job, and again, it went to a retread, if you will.
Mhm.
And Coach Simmons eventually got the head job at Oklahoma State. One of the reasons was Coach McCartney really pushed that. But the point I wanted to make is Coach Mack had at the time, I know this because I remember, four
Right.
African American coaches on his staff, which back then, as you know, Hagues, was unheard of.
Absolutely.
There was the running back coach and the secondary coach,
Right.
and that was it,
Right.
right? And it was important to him to push forward with what he saw was this inequality. Did you sense that as a 19, 18, 20-year old kid?
Yes, because he talked about it all the time. In meetings with the team, and he talked about it individually. You know, and we had to walk a fine line. We had to make sure that we were when we went to class, we sat in front, we introduced ourselves to our professors, we took notes, we held ourselves accountable for everything that we did because he knew that if we did anything that was going to bring any bad publicity or anything to the program, uh, then it was going to be on everybody,
Yeah.
not just on that individual. And he wanted us to always think before we our actions.
Do you think you'd be as close? And I know you're going to gather as we tape this tomorrow morning to to say goodbye to a guy that obviously became a legend in our parts, and that's Coach
Right.
McCartney. Do you think that even if you weren't as successful and ultimately a national championship, that you'd still be as close with the guys that you played with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Blood, sweat, and tears. That's something we used to always talk about. Blood, sweat, and tears. We're gonna be friends. We're gonna be brothers forever because of the things that we did. We endured a lot of hard work together. Like even we had the 3-a-day practices during training camp. The 15 practices straight where we were hitting first day in pads. First day we were in pads. Now you got to wear a helmet. You had acclimation period and all this stuff. We went out there and we got after it, man, and we brought out the best in each other. And when you do that, man, you competing against each other, you're competing with each other, but at the same time, you're completing each other, and that's what we did. We competed, but we completed each other.
Darian, how early on did you look around, whether it was a practice or maybe a particular game, where you realized, you know what? Not only can we be good, we can be special and we can be elite, which ultimately you guys were. You won a national championship.
I knew going into our sophomore year that we had the opportunity to be elite, but what it all came down to was this young, cocky sophomore quarterback had to humble himself and he had to prepare himself because now I had 10 other people, uh, not even 10, I would say 100 other guys that were depending on me to do the job that Sal Nessie would have done hands down.
Yeah.
So I had to grow up overnight. I had to put all my selfishness aside. You know, I had Coach Mack pushing me. I had Coach Barnett pushing me. And then I had to get in the huddle with those guys. Those guys were looking at me with no confidence in their eyes. They didn't think I had the ability, the smarts, and I wanted to prove them wrong, and I wanted to make sure that Coach Mack and Coach Barnett, I was doing them justice by them, appointing me to starting quarterback, going into my sophomore year.
Was there a guy that was widely respected, maybe a Jay Lewinberg up front? I don't know. I'm asking you that you felt like, all right, I got to win this guy over, and if I win this guy over, everything's going to fall into place.
Yes, it wasn't Jay Lewinberg though, but because but he was my buddy. You
Yeah,
know, he didn't start his freshman year. He played a little bit. I didn't start my freshman year. I played a little bit. So him and I were connected. Excuse me. Him and I was connected. But I knew in order for me to win the locker room over, to win the offensive line over, win guys over, I had to make sure that Joe Gardner was on my side.
Joe Garden.
And once I got Joe Gardner on my side, it wasn't no stopping what we were going to do.
Yeah. You know what one of my all-time favorite college football plays is to this day, because I can see it and I forget a ton of crap, man. Trust me. Right? Is
Right,
you're 50 yards downfield and JJ kept pitch relationship 50 yards downfield, and that's when you optioned the football.
right.
Is that one of your favorite plays?
It definitely is. It's one of my favorite plays because it was one that needed to be made. It was one I could have selfishly kept the ball and cut back to the right and scored. But I'll never forget. We were in practice one day, and Coach Lucas pulled me aside. He goes, "Hey man, when you cut up, why do you always look over to your over your shoulder?" I said, "Because when I was in high school, our coach taught our running backs to stay with the quarterback." He goes, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Because you can always get a cheap touchdown that way." So from that day, he taught the running backs to stay in pitch phase, and we got a lot of touchdowns just by guys staying in pitch phase. A lot of guys, when the quarterback turn up, they just say, "Forget it. He's gonna keep it. He's gonna run the ball. He's gonna slide and get down." Well, we didn't believe in that. We believed in getting touchdowns and playing through the whistle.
Now, if I remember right, the shitty part is that you lose all those yards and JJ gets all of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You ran 50, he ran 20, and he got 70
He
or
got
whatever it
70
was.
yards.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
A little bit
Absolutely.
unfair, but you all scored.
Yeah, we scored. We pulled it out.
Yeah. Hey, I've never gotten your perspective. You were hurt if and CJ was on the field in Missouri, the fifth down.
Uh,
I've talked to CJ about it, a dozen times. Did you know what was going down
no,
in
I
real
didn't.
time?
I had no idea. I was so out of it because they had just shot me up my shoulder, and I
Okay.
was I was just following along with the coaches were doing.
I see. Yeah.
Only person that knew that we were possibly getting five downs was the center.
Trying to think who was your center? Who am I
It was Jay
oh,
Lewinberg.
it was Jay. Okay.
Yeah, so Jay was like, "We can't do that. That's gonna be five downs." And Coach McCartney said, "Shut up, Jay." And then and then CJ goes, "What are you talking about, Jay?" And then Jay said it again. "We can't do that. CJ's gonna be five down." And CJ says, "Shut up, Jay. What the hell are you talking about?"
Now, how many times in the last what are we up to 35 years or whatever it is over
How about that?
beers has that story been retold?
It's been told a lot, and it was funny because when the gospel according to Mac, it was brought up again, and CJ played it out, and Coach McCartney played it out. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, going back to Mac, I got to tell you a quick story.
Uh,
So I had you guys. It may have been a couple. You were still there, I think. I had you guys on Fox in a game, and so Friday during walkthrough at Folsom, I'm talking to Mac on the field, and you guys are doing your thing,
uh-huh.
and then practice. I was kind of done with that. Mac and you guys had moved down to the other end of Folsom Field, and Mac had something he wanted to tell me that he had forgotten to tell me or whatever that
Uh-huh.
was germane to your game the next day. And he says, Drew, he's like 75 yards away now, Higgs. And I'm like, I'm in now in a sprint to
Right.
get down to coach. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't play.
Right.
I never played. I was never fortunate enough to play for coach. And
Right.
I realized like halfway, he just had that commanding thing, like you just would run through a wall for him. And ultimately, that's a big part of who he was because he didn't even wear a headset on the sideline, right?
No, no, he didn't wear a headset. He was just when we walked in the meeting room, everyone casually would just sit there, and then when he would walk in, everybody would come to attention, and then he get to talking, and everybody now is on the edge of their seat, just trying to get every word he's talking about, and you would leave there, and everyone would reincarnate the meeting. We'd always talk about how did Mac why did he raise his voice right here, and why was he talking about this, but he was a guy that he knew his audience. He knew what buttons to push, what buttons not to push, and he was a guy that was particular. He wasn't gonna let anybody talk to his team. He knew that he had the pulse of his team, and you had to be someone that was really, really special, near and dear to him, that could come in and talk to the team. Other than Coach Barnett and other than Coach Hank, a lot of coaches didn't get that opportunity to stand in front of us and talk.
Yeah, and there were some big time coaches on that staff. I mean,
Yeah.
Coach Donardo, Coach Lucas, Coach Simmons.
Yep.
Yeah, there were some guys on
Coach
Matt's staff.
Barry.
Yeah, that's right.
You
Do
know.
you um do you have a favorite pregame Mac speech or something where the hair on your arms standing up and you felt like you were 6'4", 230, not 5'9", 180.
No, I don't. I really don't. Only thing that really stands out to me was when Coach Mack would when someone would get a penalty, and I'll never forget it. Tate Nelson, he gets a block in the back penalty, and 15 yards, and Coach Mack runs on the field. He's going, "Who was it? Who was it?" And the referee goes, "It was number 37, Coach." And he runs over to Tate Nelson. He grabs him. He shakes him. Said, "Tate, you're not worth 15 yards." I remember that. But he gave so many great speeches that I really don't remember them. I remember agape love. He talked about agape love, loving people more than you love yourselves, and when you love people more than you love yourself, you do anything for them. And then another one was the your mental no morale is to the physical as four is to one. And even to this day, I recruit kids and I tell them the same thing. I said morale is to the physical as four is to one. And they go, "Coach, what are you talking about?" I said your mental has to be more four times stronger than your physical. Okay, so if you have a real great mindset, you really focus, you're really attentive to what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to do those things because your physical ability, okay, is going to naturally take over.
Yeah, yeah.
So things like that. I remember those things that stood out to me.
This gets thrown around. This phrase I'm going to use, Higgs, in our world of athletics.
Hmm.
This guy was a father figure, and it's usually with a coach, right? This guy was a
Yeah.
father figure. Even for those that had a present male figure in their home.
Hmm.
But it really did apply to him for so many, did it not?
Absolutely. For me, my dad wasn't in my life. Um, but I had uncles, that were like father figures to me. I had high school coaches that were like father figures to me. But Coach McCartney was someone that was a little bit different. He was one that when he spoke to me and when he invested in you, you didn't want to let him down. Every because he was empowering you with his words, and he was encouraging you with his words, and anything you would do on the football field, it was in my opinion, it was a direct reflection upon him. So as a player, especially for me, I wanted to make sure that when I was in the classroom taking a test, you know, I'm doing everything the right way. I'm studying. I was prepared for it, you know. And then when I was on the football field, same deal. Watching film, during the week, getting acclimated with the process, and then figuring, on game day, this is what they're trying to do to us, and getting us in the right plays and stuff like that. And it was just something. He just made you just want to do more than you really thought that you ever were capable of doing.
Yeah.
And then I tell people all the time, something that Coach Mack told me. He said, "Coaching is just taking a player somewhere they can't take themselves. That's all coaching is." And that's exactly what he did. He took us to a place where we couldn't take ourselves. So without him, a lot of us wouldn't have had an opportunity to do the things that we did and accomplish the things that we did and to have successful lives.
Well, speaking of one of the things you all accomplished as a team was a national championship in
Yep.
1990, 10-9 over Notre Dame. Notre Dame, as we
Yep.
speak,
Yep.
battled back against Ohio State last night in the college football national championship. Is that game bittersweet for you, Higgs? Because you blow out your patellar tendon, and CJ ends up coming in for you.
Right.
Um, that had to be. Well, I'll let you tell me. I mean, it had to be gut wrenching.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was gut wrenching because I wanted to be the guy out there, jumping around and giving everybody high five and having a good time. And now CJ had the opportunity to do it, and he did a great job. And now he's the Superman in Boulder, and he was prepared, he was ready for his opportunity. Um, but the ironic thing is the night before, CJ and I were roommates, and the night before I'm laying in bed, CJ's on the phone talking to his girlfriend, and I'm laying in bed trying to get some sleep, and I said, "Hey man," and he goes, "What's up, Hayes?" I said, "I just had a dream, man, that I'm gonna get hurt. I'm gonna blow my knee out in this game." He goes, "Oh man, shut up! You always saying stuff like that." So I'm telling you, I just had a dream that I'm going to blow my knee out in this game. You're gonna come in the game. You're gonna win it. That's exactly,
Holy
and that's
shit!
that's
You
exactly
know
what
what? I
happened.
get chills. Are you serious?
That's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened. I want to
You know,
ask you something. I was thinking about this. The game keeps evolving in football.
huh?
And now, when you watch the NFL variety, it's Lamar, it's Josh, it's Patrick, it's who am I? Like Bo Nix now, the kid down the street, had a hell of a rookie year, right?
Right.
One of the things that all these guys, virtually all these guys,
Uh huh.
have in common is their two-way goes, as I like to say. They have obviously the ability to throw the ball, but they
Right.
have the ability either by design run or if stuff breaks down to beat you with their legs.
Correct.
That is who you were again 35 years ago.
Yep.
And do you look and say, man, I came around at the wrong time?
Absolutely. I think about it every time I watch those guys play ball because you know when we were playing, we had to switch positions to be able to even get a look. And now these guys, but we those that got looks, got opportunities to do some good things and that open up the pathway for these guys now. And these guys now, they're taking full advantage of the opportunity that they've been presented. you
Yeah.
know uh, you know I told my dad, because my dad and we talk now. I told my dad that I was just a little bit too early for my time. I said, and all you had to do was wait a little bit, man. And we'd have all been happy and taken care of.
Yeah, yeah.
you
You
know,
know what? To me, even it's crazy. It's 7 years now that Lamar Jackson, he won the Heisman, obviously, at Louisville, and you were a Heisman finalist. You got Heisman votes every year of your career, in fact.
yeah,
But there were some who still felt, well, he's got to go play wide out,
right,
or somewhere else. And
right,
this guy, for me, there's no question he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Um, if I had to start a team and over the next 5 years with one guy, as great as
right,
Mahomes is, I mean, you're going to think long and hard on Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's that special, but he's not alone. I mean, Josh
yeah.
Allen, who played up the road, nobody wanted him, right?
Nobody wanted from
Nobody
Wyoming.
wanted him. They want to make him a tight end because he's such a
Right,
big dude,
right,
right? And look
right,
what he does.
right. He's a guy. I tell you what, when I watch Lamar, he's so dynamic. He can do anything on the football field that he wants to. I think a lot of the times he holds back because he wants to get his teammates involved, and sometimes that could be a fault for him. Whereas Josh Allen, he'll hang on to the ball a little bit too long, and then he'll make up with it with his feet. But he's always looking to throw it while he's running, where Lamar is looking to run it instead of throw it.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Those are two differences between those two guys, in my opinion. But both of them are really, really good. Both of them will be Hall of Fame players. and both of them are good for their cities and their organizations.
All right. Speaking of your city, because I don't want to keep you too long.
You good?
You come from, you come from South Central, and we were talking earlier about so many kids from SoCal that were in
Hmm.
Boulder and Houston and some tough neighborhoods in New Orleans, right?
Yep.
And they end up in Boulder, Colorado. And so many, like yourself, whether they went on to NFL careers and you played for a minute in the NFL, played in the CFL, so many came back to make either Boulder or the Denver metropolitan area their home. Why is
Right.
that?
I think because the state of Colorado, as a young man, we were trying to escape the places that we were raised. I didn't want to be living in Southern California. Not I shouldn't say Southern California. I didn't want to live in Watts. Living in Watts, then it was crack pandemic. It was gang violence everywhere. So I was trying to escape those things, and Chad Brown, Deion Figures, same thing in Houston. We were trying to see those things, and then we came here. you know, uh, some of the guys experience racism. Some of the guys experience harassment from police officers, things like that. But at the same time, we all grew up together. We all became better people because of Boulder, Colorado, and the reason why I would say we all pretty much made our home here is because this is our happy place.
Yeah. You spent so many years, as we were talking about initially, in Boulder as part of a number of staffs, primarily as a running back coach. And you moved, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, kind of somewhat to the front office. And Colorado's back on the map. Deion Sanders has kind of flipped things on its head.
Hmm.
Um, but he kept you on staff, but he moved you off the playing field. And now you're at San Diego State, back, I think, doing what you love, and that's coaching every day on the field and so on, a whistle, I'm sure, around your neck.
Right.
Take us through that period, if you would, and why ultimately you felt like it was best for you to, find another spot.
Well, it was a period of time where um, we struggled at 1-11. So at the same time, I don't think that the place needed to be cleaned out. I think if you look at college football last season, a lot of former buffs that were young puppies or young babies, as people say, they really showed up last season, had a lot of success. Um, but at the same time, I get what he was trying to do. He was trying to bring in his people, his circle, his people that thought the same way with him, like he thinks, and he thought it was best that he do that, and in the process, I was taken off the field um, and given an ambassador, executive director title, which I appreciated. I had a job and I was, able to still be at my alma mater and cheer on the guys. Even some of the guys would even come by my office and we would talk ball and I would, go over protections and stuff like that with them because they asked me to. Um, and given that, but that was also a period of time where it was low. It was a low and lonely for me because I wasn't doing what I thought I should be doing. You know, and then when Coach Lewis, John Lewis, got the job at San Diego State, he was walking by my office, and I was like, Coach, I know you got something cooking. What you got cooking? He just started laughing. And then he went and interviewed, got the job, and he called me. He was like, "I want you to be my running back coach. What do you think?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'll be a running back coach." And I had went to Rick George's office and talked to Rick, and Rick was like, obviously, I want you to stay, but at the same time, I know you want to coach, and that's your passion, and you should go follow your passion, and that's what I did.
Good for
But
you.
at the same time, following my passion, I had to leave my family for a year to go and do that.
Yeah.
And then my wife, she told me here recently, there's no way in hell it's gonna be another year without her. So I gotta welcome the family back in the fold.
So are they going to move out to San Diego with you or
Yes,
okay.
they are. So
Okay.
they'll finish my son will finish the school year out, and then they'll move down to San Diego.
Yeah. Listen, I know it's expensive there, but there's worse places to be than San Diego.
Absolutely. I say that all the time. You're right. It's expensive. Sometimes I don't even want to go to the grocery store and get no food. But it is. It's a great place to be, and I tell guys all the time, it's us and the Padres. We're the NFL team down there, and it's a lot. USC and UCLA. Stanford, Cal. Those schools all in different conferences. They don't play a lot of games in SoCal. But we do. So come on down here. Your parents don't have to go far. They don't have to get on planes. They don't have to do buy get tickets or get a hotel and things like that. They can get on. They can drive down here 92 miles. Watch a game, see their kid, get back in the car, and they're home for the night.
Pretty good sales pitch right
You
there.
know.
Pretty good. Hey, a couple quick ones before I let you fly. Number one, we got to hook up when the Rockies are out there in San Diego.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. And number two, if memory serves me correctly, which doesn't always serve me correctly, weren't you drafted in baseball out of high school?
I was.
That's what I thought. What were you,
I was.
shortstop?
I was a shortstop. Yep. And I was drafted by the Seattle Mariners. And then when I got, I wanted to play football. So when I got to CU, I found out that CU didn't have a baseball team, but I got drafted every year in college as well.
That's right. I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then my senior year, I got drafted by the 49ers and the San Francisco Giants.
Did you ever think about, all right, you know what, I'll put the spikes back on. Let me give it a whirl. Let me see if I can still do this thing.
I did. I tried it right before I went to camp with the 49ers, and I just didn't have the same, affliction for it anymore. It was
Yeah,
different. It
I
was
get
different, and I
I
just
get
wanted to go play with Joe Montana.
Yeah. Did you guys have much interaction in that camp?
No, actually, we didn't because he was hurt, so he was always rehabbing.
I see.
But I spent a lot of time with Steve Bono, spent a lot of time with Ty Detmer and
Okay.
Steve Young.
Yeah. Both
You
you
know,
and both you and Detmer won a national championship.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
That's pretty wild.
yeah.
Hey, last one. How other than the occasion of all you guys being in the same spot is a sad one with
Yes,
Coach Mack passing, but I can't imagine how much fun it's going to be and the stories that are going to be told and retold and embellished with all you guys getting together. You have to be really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. The last time a lot of us have really been together, that I've seen so many guys where we were filming, the gospel according to Coach Matt. Um, but a lot of the guys they came back. I think last year or a year before last, they had the reunion where I couldn't make it. Um, so just being able to be around the guys and, like you said, embellish some stories and have a good time and catching up and just reminiscing is going that's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
And it's a sad moment, but it's a moment that only one guy, in my opinion, that could have brought everybody back like that's coming back. Bill McCartney, he's still watching over us and he's still leading us and he's still directing our movements.
Yeah, well put, and that's a great place to put a period. Hey, it's great to see you, on camera and not
Thank you,
running
buddy.
through an airport. I look forward to. I mean that. I'll reach out to you in San Diego when the Rockies are in town. Love to hook up. But continued
That'd be
success.
awesome.
Yeah. Be
Thank you.
well. All right, buddy.
All right, buddy. Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good one.
Darien Hagan, special guy, special guy. Not just naturally a great buff. And I'm disappointed and bummed that all of those guys, were kind of not forced to. They wanted to get together to say goodbye to their old coach. But I'm really glad that they were able to do that. And not only have you heard how close they are, and they all stay in touch, and so many that came here from other parts of the country reside here now, the Alfred Williams, the Chad Browns, Darian. So it was special to hear about those guys being able to spend quality time. And I know there were several get-togethers during the week prior to and after the funeral for Coach McCartney, the service for Coach McCartney. That'll do it for this edition of our little podcast here. We're very appreciative that you join us each week. Now we're on YouTube on Mile High. Big shout out to Mile High Sports. Again, shout out to my sponsors, Huntington Bank and Steel. Next week, Dave Sims will join us. Dave Sims, who did the Mariners forever, and he's now though he's not new to sportscasting and sports writing and podcasts. I mean, he's a legend in our business, but Dave is now the new voice of the New York Yankees on radio. John Sterling retiring and Dave's taken over, and we're going to talk all about broadcasting and baseball and other sports, and Mike Krzyzewski. That'll come next week on another edition of the Drew Goodman podcast. Again, stay safe, stay well, everybody. We'll do it again in 7 days. Talk to you.